Over the last 10 years, Zwift has added quite a few new roads, and now we have some pretty epic climbs to tackle in the world of Zwift. Today I'm going to be covering the top 5 hardest climbs on Zwift so that you know which climbs you should be tackling for your next cycling challenge. Let's dive into the video. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 hardest climbs on Zwift, and we're going to dive right into that, starting with number 5. And number 5 on that list is actually going to be the climb portal climbs. And I don't have a specific climb here because everything is on a schedule, so that's the reason why this isn't ranked like number 1 or 2, because the climb portal does have some of the largest climbs on Zwift, but they are not listed as the hardest climbs because it's on a rotation-based calendar, so the biggest climb might not always be available, making it pretty inconsistent. So generally, the climbs are going to be around the size of the 5th biggest climb, so it really depends from month to month, and you can see a complete calendar of the climb portal rotation in the description below. However, as of October 2024, Mount Hamilton is technically the second tallest climb on Zwift, with a length of 31.3 kilometers, 19.4 miles, and an elevation gain of 4,000 feet or around 1,200 meters. It has an average gradient of 3.5%, and it can be found in the France Climb Portal. So overall, that's currently the largest climb that we have in the climb portal so far. But other than that, the other climbs are all around what I would say 5th place, which was probably around 1,000 feet of climbing and 1 or 2 miles long. Now, coming in at number 4 is going to be the grade. The grade has recently been released, and it is a very steep and middle length climb, and it's used as a sort of FTP test type climb, so you can use that as a very reliable source of how you can figure out what your functional threshold power is, and it's a great way to make it a bit more enjoyable and a bit more of a challenge. And there is a small tiny flat bit in the first third of the climb, but after that it's pretty consistently an 8 to 10% gradient. And the grade has a length of 3.52 kilometers, 2.2 miles, and has an elevation gain of 305 meters and 1,001 feet of climbing. Average gradient is coming in at 8.6%, so pretty steep. Now, the most direct way to get to this climb is going to be through the Oh Hill No course, which is pretty much straight up this climb, so you're not going to have much of a warm-up. If you want more of a warm-up, I'd recommend going for the elevation evaluation course, which is a bit longer, which gives you probably around 20-30 minute warm-up prior to hitting that climb. Moving on to number 3. Number 3 is pretty predictable, and that is the Epic KOM. Now, I'm not going to specify which direction because both of them, in my mind, are equally challenging. They're sort of just a different type of challenging, so it sort of depends on what you find harder. Now, the Epic KOM reverse is going to be a lot steeper and a lot shorter, so you're going to get the elevation done pretty quickly, and it's going to be generally last a couple less minutes than the forward version, because the forward version is definitely flatter, has the same amount of elevation gain, it's just more spread out and a longer course to get to the top of the climb. And the climbs are roughly 1,200 feet of climbing and last around 3 to 5 miles in climbing. Most riders will generally take around 20 to 40 minutes. Some of the top cyclists on Zwift can probably do it in less than 20 minutes, and that is always a fun challenge to do, to see if you can go under 20 minutes on the Epic KOM. That would generally get you the KOM jersey, which is always a fun thing to do on Zwift. Now, the easiest way to get there is through a route like Jungle Circuit. You could just flip a U-turn and then head straight up the climb. If you want a bit of a warm-up beforehand, I'd recommend going for something like Mountain Route or Mountain Loop 8. Those are 2 very good courses that go up the Epic KOM. Now, some of you may be thinking that the Inbrukm KOMs are about the same length and about the same elevation gain as the Epic KOM, so why not include that as my 4th or 3rd pick instead of the grade or the Epic KOM. Now, the reason why is just I don't really think that Inbrukm KOMs are that interesting or fun. I'd much rather direct people towards the Epic KOM because it's just so much more of a scenic and enjoyable route. But do keep that in mind that if you're looking for something of a similar caliber, do check out the Inbrukm KOM and Inbrukm KOM Reverse if you need to check that off your bucket list. If you are enjoying this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really does help support the channel, and I'm really trying to grow quite a bit in this indoor cycling season, so any subscriptions are greatly appreciated. Now, let's continue on with the video. Now, moving into the number 2 hardest climb on Zwift. The number 2 hardest climb on Zwift, I'd say, is ALU Zwift. Most of you guys probably saw this coming, but it is a direct replica of the ALU Zwift in real life, and it is pretty much almost identical. They tried to replicate it as best as possible. Now, it's not going to be exactly the same, but it is definitely close enough, and the scenery is going to be really have a Zwift's own take on it. You're going to see fun stuff like a little tunnel, a little village, and you're also going to see something called that Zwifters regard as the Yeti. Now, the Yeti is a very hard thing to find. Honestly, most Zwifters will probably see it 1 out of the 20 times that they'll climb up ALU Zwift. So it definitely is a cool sight to see, and you can see that around turn 9 to turn 7. And I personally have never seen the Yeti, but I know a lot of Zwifters who have seen it, and it's always just a little fun Easter egg that Zwift has thrown in there to make the climb just a bit more enjoyable and distract you from the painful long climb of ALU Zwift. It also has a spinning wheel at the top, so once you get to the top, it has a spinning wheel that gives you prizes. If you've already earned all the prizes, you'll get 250 XP, but that's a topic for another video, and if you want to learn all about that, you can see a link in the description below. Now, it's going to be a 7.6 mile climb, or 12.2 kilometers. It's going to have a total elevation gain of 1,036 meters, or 3,399 feet. So quite a big climb, and it's going to have an average gradient of 8.5%. So you're really not getting much flat road in this. It's pretty much going to be straight up for 7 miles. It's a pretty painful climb, but honestly, it goes by pretty quickly once you get into the groove of things. The most direct route to complete this is going to be the Road to Sky, and that's going to pretty much start you right in front of the jungle, and then you just ride down through the jungle, and boom, you're headed up the climb. After that, you get to enjoy a really nice long downhill, just super tuck or switch with a TT bike to get down even faster. Now, coming in first place for the longest and hardest climb on Zwift is Mount Ventus KOM. Now, this could very well be replaced by upcoming climbs on Zwift, but for the last 3 or 4 years, Mount Ventus has been the hardest climb on Zwift. And it is the longest and tallest climb there is on Zwift, beating ALU Zwift by a crazy 3-4 extra miles and having an extra 1,500 feet of climbing, so it is quite the challenge. Coupling that with the incredibly boring scenery and the lack of a spinning wheel at the top, Ventus is easily the hardest climb on Zwift. So if you complete this one, congrats on surviving the mental challenge and the physical challenge of climbing up this climb. I personally have only made it up once or twice because I was just bored out of my mind. No spinning wheel at the top to motivate me, so sorry, I'm just going to stick to ALU Zwift. The length is going to be 11.8 miles, or 19 kilometers, and the elevation gain is going to be 1,481 meters, or 4,859 feet. And the average gradient is going to come in at a crazy 7.8%, so literally almost as steep as ALU Zwift, and it's going to be a lot longer and include a lot more elevation gain. The most direct route is going to be Ventus, which does add some extra elevation. It'll probably get you to around 5,000 feet or so of climbing, so that adds probably an extra 5 minutes to your ride. Not that big of a deal, but that is the fastest way to get up this climb. Now, Zwift is always expanding Watopia and the other worlds. We've actually got a new expansion launching in the coming few weeks, so stay tuned for a complete video about that. But as I said earlier, things are always getting bigger, and you can expect to see more big climbs coming on Zwift soon. There's been a long-awaited Mount Fuji that should probably top these climbs. I haven't heard much about that recently, but it definitely should be coming at some point. If I left out any climbs that you think should be on this list, please let me know in the comment section below. And with that, thank you all for watching, ride on, and see you all next time. Hope you have fun tackling one of these climbs.